going to start, and please take your seats, okay? Okay, timely. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished panelists and guests. Welcome to today's sessions on investment in fragmented global economy, regional strategies for sustainable growth. Let me introduce myself. My name is Aygul Kusherbayeva, and I am a secretary for academic and research affairs at the Kazakhstan Institute for Strategic Studies, which is under the president. And today I have an honor just to moderate these sessions, and I hope for everyone the fruitful and effective discussions. So, in the era where the global trade architecture is shifting rapidly, driven by geopolitical rivalries, economic sanction, and disrupt supply chain, regions like Central Asia find themselves at the crossroad on opportunity and risk. Today we explore how strategic neutrality, institutional reform, and regional connectivity can position emerging economy as a resilient, attractive investment hubs. So, due to this short and brief annotation of our session, let me begin by hearing from our distinguished panelists. And short introduction for today's panelists. Mr. Abdullah Abdukadirov, he's the first Deputy Director, Agency for Strategic Reforms under the President of the Republic of Uzbekistan. The second distinguished panelist is Mr. Yan Chen. He's a professor, Executive Dean, Shanghai Academy of Global Governance and Area Studies, Shanghai International Studies University. The third panelist, Mr. Konstantin Polunin. He is a passer and director of the Boston Consulting Group. And final panelist, Dastan Akibayev, Deputy Chairman of Board, Economic Research Institute, Kazakhstan. So, and today we are going to start by Mr. Abdullah Abdukadirov, and each panelist has 8 minutes for their presentations. And if you don't mind, just we can start from hearing the panelists, and all discussions, questions, we will turn after all panelists present their thesis. And the floor is yours, Mr. Abdullah Abdukadirov. Yes. The presentations of Mr. Abdukadirov, please.
Thank you very much. I'm really honored to be here in Astana. I'm first time and very much impressed by what I have seen, all colleagues, and really exciting. My short speech is about global challenges and what kind of regional response we do have. And first of all, I would like to describe a bit what kind of challenges we do have. The first, and yesterday's sessions had shown clearly that we have political instability and raising of different conflicts, regional conflicts, which are really threatening the whole world. The second is we clearly see that some countries are having a strong desire to solve the national problems on the cost of international community. The third is the threat of sanction, initial sanction and secondary sanctions, just because of you want to trade with someone who was your international partner for many, many years, and you just want to continue. And there are also, it's not enough, they are putting also regulatory pressure, saying now it's going to be new standards of making trade this and that, so regulatory framework is also limiting you to achieve the free trade. And as a result of that, you can see that different geopolitical alliances and decoupling is arising. The sample of BRICS, sample of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the sample of Turkish development organizations clearly shows that countries are trying, by using their old heritage, to somehow stand against these kind of regulations and these kind of harsh activities. And then also we can see that resources are becoming geopolitical assets. We are trying to sell the resources not just as a trade asset, but also geopolitical asset. And that is, we can see from the war between the United States and China, whereby whereby you can see that China has implemented, again, a new regulatory frame for the export of rare metals. And as a result, the United States has decided to increase all tariffs by 100% more. And also, which is very new, the global cyber threats and AI is becoming more and more significant factor on manipulating different mindsets and manipulating thoughts, and also putting pressure on different countries by demonizing the different groups and different countries even. And those are real threats we can see in the real, and those are challenges. And the question is how the Central Asian countries have to respond to these kind of global challenges. We can see clearly the three aspects of the response: political, economical, and military. The political response should be assuring, first of all, the regional peace. And we've done it. We were very successful in that. And we are thinking we should be more neutral rather than having well-balanced approach by everyone. Because the big powers just next to our doors are not tolerating when you're trying to be more well-balanced with everyone. But being more neutral is a challenge for us in these days. The regional interests are first priority. This should be clear to everyone. And for example, everyone is saying that the big countries are very much interested on the rare metals. Okay, what should be our response then? Then we can do simply as China did. We can ask the market against the technology transfer, and this is it. But to do so, all 5 countries in Central Asia, including even Afghanistan, 6 countries, should say the same. If not, one by one, then this treaty will be gone. And we also very much strengthen the regional cooperation on the water usage, on energy usage, and other challenges which you have currently. And we have to really rely on local values, which all 5 countries are sharing right now. The alliances we have to base on the interests, but not on the ideology we have. And the economical cooperation should be long-term, with a long-term mindset. And it all has to be based on the regional focus. And risk monitoring should be at place as well by all countries. We have to see where and how the threats are coming up and how we can tackle all together. We all have not to compete on the 1 or 2 projects. We have to have a diversified economies, and we can develop economies which can complement each other. Instead of competition, we can complement each other. Then, again, those kind of partnerships should be very sustainable. And they can be sustainable only when we are really will be based on our joint values. And we have to address regional economic threats and challenges jointly, not one by one, but all jointly. Then, again, the cooperation on each of each activities is really utmost. And again, we have to put, of course, I'm a bit of kind of idealistic in here. We have to try to put common interest at first rather than the national interest. And then we can achieve real change in the whole Central Asia. And military, we're also strengthening our cooperation with our countries in between, but we're trying to form a real military alliance and develop the military technology inside of the Central Asian countries. Because at the end of the day, if the policy and political issues won't be solved, then we have to be ready to respond to any kind of threats which might be in the near future arising in Central Asia. So military development is also very important. But what are the values I've been mentioning many times? I think that we should follow up with providing small steps, but very important thing. The number one, the Central Asia should be equal in living standards for everyone who is living in Dushanbe, in Tashkent, or in Astana. Doesn't matter. If you want to travel, if you want to make a business, we have to try to feel people everywhere the same. And then we will be back to our history when people were traveling easily without no borders, and they were having the same standards, same acknowledgement of the society, everything. And then we have to tackle the global changes like climate change, global instability, water resources jointly, as I said. The major priorities should be on water, transportation, logistics, and IT projects. Industrial development should be based on the local resources. We are at the middle of the continent. If we will not be relying completely on the local resources, then we will be more and more buying things from abroad and just offering our natural resources. But one day natural resources will be gone. And what after we will be doing? So meanwhile, we have to put our technological development as a priority. And the trade and investment flow should be very much diversified, as we said. By diversifying by countries, by regions, by technologies, we can put up somehow that we can assure that our future will be more stable. And of course, I say that no place for nationalism and narrow short-term mindset solutions. We have to think about if one thing is good for Uzbekistan, that should be as good to Kazakhstan or to Tajikistan, to others. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abdulkadirov. I think that 8 minutes may be not enough, just plus 1 minute, okay? So far, 9. And actually, as I understand from your report, so right now the main question is that we have to build a rules-based economic development according to the international standards, because actually under such conditions the international investors can rely on stability even amidst global turbulence. Yes? Thank you very much for your report, and of course there are several questions will be follow-up. And now we are turning to Dr. Yan Chen, so the floor is yours, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's my great pleasure to be here to participate in the conference, and it's my great honor to share my insights about the China Central Asian Digital Intelligence Cooperation. I think yesterday we have heard a lot from the speakers, especially from our host, the director of the Kazakhstan Institute for Strategic Studies, and the president about the digitalization program in Kazakhstan. So I totally agree with you that we should promote enhance our cooperation in the field. So let me share my insights about this topic. Over the past 18 years since Steve Jobs invented the first smartphone in 2007 year, the humanity's imagination of the ultimate societal form has evolved from the world is flat to the world is fast, and then from the world is deep to the world is intelligent. The industrial revolutions that define a human society thus far have established a carbon-based paradigm. However, with the rapid advancement of AI, humanity is now embarking on a global transformation that we have never seen before in history. a transit from the carbon area to the silicon area. So it's a very important transformation. And I think that China Central Asian Community of Shared Future is a strategic agenda jointly initiated by the Chinese and the Central Asian leaders. Geographically, it encompasses three dimensions: the China-Shanghai Cooperation Organization framework, and the broader China-Central Asian regional partnership, and the third is the bilateral communities with individual Central Asian nations. Content-wise, it integrates three tiers: an economic community, a responsibility sharing community, and a comprehensive destiny sharing community. The China Central Summit and the China Central Asian Cooperation Secretariat serve as institutional pillars advancing this agenda. While China Central Asian cooperation has achieved remarkable progress, I think our audience agreed to this point, but the evolving global landscape demands renewed efforts. Foremost among these is the construction of a China Central Asian Digital Intelligent Community of Shared Future. In this context, I think China stands as a reliable strategic partner for Central Asian nations. Firstly, technological leadership. I mean, China, to some extent, has played the same role as the United States. In this context, China revives the United States as a technological superpower in AI. Offering comparative advantages in this domain. The second is open collaboration. I mean, the model of the collaboration. China advocates for open, inclusive cooperation and is committed to providing international public goods in AI. The third is balanced ease of. China prioritizes harmonizing development and security, ensuring respect for Central Asian nations' concerns over digital sovereignty and other issues. The fourth is niche advantages. I mean, Central Asian countries with smaller populations possesses unique opportunities to pilot AI applications without significant disruptions to traditional employment structures. But what next we should do? I mean, China and Kazakhstan, among other Central Asian nations, should deepen strategic collaboration in AI field. And President Tokayev's visionary inclusion of AI development as a national priority in Kazakhstan's State of the Nation address opens a new avenues for bilateral collaboration beyond the traditional trade, investment, and infrastructure. To ensure sustainable development in Central Asia, it is imperative to jointly advocate for and implement the China Central Asian Digital Intelligent Community of Shared Future initiative. I mean, we should do in three aspects. The first, jointly advance the reform of the digital intelligent governance system. It is essential to break free from the old rule system dominated by the developed countries and establish a new digital governance framework centered on multilateral participation and equal consultation principle. This framework will provide direction for cross-border data flows, privacy protection, and other areas, while incorporating with the concerns of developing countries into rule-making process, I mean, including the Central Asian countries. The second is co-build digital infrastructure, collaborate to advance the development of cross-border optical cables, satellite communications, and other network facilities, and jointly construct digital hubs and 5G smart city networks. Through technology transfer and joint R&D, enhance the digital intelligent capacities of the Central Asian countries, leveraging each nation's comparative advantages, build digital industrial chains, promote technology sharing, and establish alliance for digital technology innovation. The third is we should enhance or strengthen the digital intelligent literacy education, launch cross-border digital skills training programs, especially for the so-called far countrysides in Central Asian states, to provide a basic programming and AI courses for the young people in these remote areas of Central Asian countries. They connect technical experts from various nations through the digital mentorship program to facilitate knowledge sharing and remote collaboration. Deepen educational cooperation by jointly setting up a digital Silk Road scholarship to support young Central Asian experts in studying AI and big data technology in China. I think I will stop here. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for your being so tidy. Just your finish.
Oh, you
Oh,
might.
there? Yes. And a little just remarks about your thesis because it's really important because due to your speech, we can conclude that investors are not only looking for the market access, but they also looking for the such called reliability of policy over time because and actually all initiatives which was mentioned in your report have to be discussed later. So, and now we are turning to our third distinguished panelist, Mr. Konstantin Polunin. And yes, there is a clicker for your presentation, and you can use it your time. 9 minutes is yours, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cheng. Thank you. You gave me a nice present of 2 minutes additionally, so I will try to keep my time. And I thought your speech really interesting. Thank you very much for that. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much to organizers, specifically to Jean Dos and your team. It's really a great event. I'm first time here. I actually join this type of events quite frequently because I believe that there's a huge importance in informal communication, in some sharing insights, and I think this is really a great event. Thank you very much again. I live now in Berlin, Germany, but I travel like a hell in Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan, and even Kyrgyzstan, and we see the same set of questions in each of these countries. And I see the same set of questions from investors, because we're talking to them as Boston Consulting Group. The questions are more or less the same. How to think about Kazakhstan? Should we invest in Kazakhstan or should we invest in Uzbekistan? What is there except oil and gas and mineral resources? At the same time, while being in these countries, we face the question, how to diversify economy? What does it mean? We try, we do anything, but how should we really build equality in our economy and how to attract not just easy investors, but smart money? That's why we started this study, which is covering these 4 countries, and I talked to quite a number of global investors, multinationals, and banks, and financial organizations, and it's also within the countries also. So here are some insights. I still have 6 minutes, so I will try to be as fast as I can. The question on the world is changing. There is one major word, uncertainty. Everyone is talking about uncertainty. This is uncertainty 2 years ago. This is a change of major trade flows. This shows what is changing in 22, 23. The good news is that the global trade is growing. The bad news, no one understands how and what does it mean. You see in green increase of trade, in red decrease of trade, and you see the major fronts. This is the multipolarity. This is based on the BCG model, which analyzes all the global trade data, etc., etc., etc. You don't see here Central Asia. This was a trigger for our study. Where is Central Asia? Where is Kazakhstan? This is the picture. Next year, you see the different picture. Changes are still ongoing, and this is just 1 year horizon. Try to imagine what does it mean for BCG to update this model for all investors and for all traders to understand what is going on, and now put on top the sanctions and anything which is happening this year. So how to think about this, and where is Central Asia? Now it gets more complex, because uncertainty, sanctions are 2 favorite words. Another one is artificial intelligence. How to think about artificial intelligence in Kazakhstan and Central Asia. The challenge with AI is that this is a geopolitical thing. This defines economic prosperity, this is military and defense, and this is transnational influence. Where is Central Asia? Where is Kazakhstan? Once we talk about Gen AI, we talk about superpowers, and you see here China and US, but you see also emerging, I would say we call it middle powers. What defines influence and ability to build something reasonable, also to protect national sovereignty, is highlighted here. Energy, computing power, data, fundamental IP, talent, capital power, but, and now thinking on the entire efforts of Kazakhstan in digitalization and Center for Regulatory AI, etc., these are people. These are people and scientific publications, and look how Gulf countries are going. Number of AI specialists is growing like a hell, even in Saudi Arabia. Number of publications, congratulations to China, but still you see also emerging powers getting in. This is not only about adoption, this is about development. And now coming to this is the general trends, and I still have 2 minutes. That's why I will try to go to the core. Investors see Kazakhstan and Central Asia through 5 common lenses, which are partially conflicting. That's a problem, because no one really understands what is it. Is it a stockpile? Is it a connector? Is it a strategic key? Is it a market? Or is it a factory? How to think on this? And at the same time, the challenges related to smart money are more or less the same. It's a scale, it's a growth model, it's risk, also financial risk, it's a hyper-centralized power, and it's a macro. The question, though, is the scale. If you see on combined Central Asia countries, which we considered in our study, on population, on GDP, on trade, on FDI flow, on all the macro parameters, who cares? It's a scale question, and this goes to what you said. It's a pure scale question, because if you play factory, if you play markets, if you play connector, or if you play even strategy, that's a scale question. That's why we believe there's nothing except the pressure to create real economic union, I even would say, because otherwise even Kazakhstan is not relevant. I started with, on the global scale, I started with the spaghetti charts, the global trade, how to think on that, not 1 year or 2 year horizon, but 5 to 10 year horizon. You can develop trillion of scenarios, and each of them will be false, because each of the countries is optimizing its own position. It's like a 3-body problem, you know, the famous Netflix movie. Everyone is trying to optimize its own position, and no one understands what is going on. That's why we came up with a very simplistic framework, trying to think and also to develop our own view, because we are present in each of these countries. We're also investor. How to think on scenarios. So actually, it's smart simplicity. The future of this region will be defined by, of course, economic and geopolitical tensions, because this region is not in vacuum. It's between superpowers. And the drivers for that would be demand for new supplies of commodities. We talked on that, and also barriers and trades in manufacturing goods. If you think this further, you come up to just 4 scenarios how this region and Kazakhstan will develop. Very simple. If demand for new supplies of commodities is high and barriers and trades are low, you get back to Klondike again. That's a mega deals. On contrary, if barriers and trades and manufacturing goods will continue to increase, as we see right now, this will be the era of complex deals, where these countries and investors must be much smarter, because this will be complex packaged deals where role of the business will be increasing. Now, because I'm out of my time, I would say one conclusion is that thinking in these scenarios is helpful not only for investors and not only for BCG and for academic researchers, but it's also extremely pragmatic because each of these scenarios will define economic policy, impact on industries, and also potential collaboration, and finally also type of investors which will be coming to this region. And I must secure you, this region is getting really attention because this is still considered as one of the untapped regions with growing population and quite huge significant strategic relevance. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Konstantin. Actually, I hope, because there are several discussion questions, we'll prepare it just to you regarding the scenario model, and I think that all presentations of today's panelists just will arise the Q&A effective sessions, yes, and be ready to ask the questions from our panelists. And next panelist of today's session, Mr. Dastan Akibayev. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Agul. Good morning, dear participants. First thing first, I would like to say thank you to Kazakhstan Institute for Strategic Studies, especially to Jandos for this opportunity to perform here. Actually, it's my debut for the first time that I'm speaking in the forum. Thank you so much. Good morning, dear participants. And actually, my thesis and my performance will be in regard to a specific Kazakhstan case about its strategic goal to be a stable, sustainable investors platform, let's call it like that, and how Kazakhstan reacts during the global trends, and what are the approaches it implements in order to keep investors safe, sure, and confident about the stability of this macroeconomic situation here. Okay, around the globe, everybody hears that tariff and trade wars are pressuring the global supply and value chains. It slows the economic growth, slows the investment inflow, and etc. And also, some of the developed countries, we see that they are intensifying industrial reshoring, which is so, this term states that they are bringing back the homeland productions and producers. They are forcing them to come back to their countries and then do the production locally. And then also we see that the national exceptions are expanding. And the results, we see that, as the previous speaker showed us, that the global supply chains have changed dramatically during the first year. Additionally to that, we see that the global FDI inflows decreased by 22% to developed countries especially. And if we see the situation in the Europe, like the Europe shortages reached around 58% shortages in FDI. But as we see to the global statistics, developing countries are reaching from 2 to 75% growth of FDIs. So what is the secret here? The secret here is that during this shift from globalization to regionalization, the middle power countries, we can say it like this as well, reacting to these volatilities faster than the developed countries and the large economies. And during this speech, I would like to present some of the strategies of Kazakhstan. And by this presentation, I will try to answer to the question. I will try to answer to the question like how the success is going here. So key legislative measures include empowered legal protections and guarantees for investors, aligned with international standards, including the President's Initiative for Investors' Rights Protection Committee. As the majority knows that the key factors for investors, like the most important ones, are the safety, protection, access to markets, resources, and the predictability of macroeconomic situation. So in this way, Kazakhstan also is expecting the new tax code, which will be effective next year, and it ensures equal, predictable, and transparent conditions for businesses and investors. Digital enhancements feature the National Digital Investment Platform, integrating government agencies, seamless attraction, implementation, and monitoring of projects. The Astana International Financial Center bolsters resilience. It keeps 4,030 companies from 85 countries in its ecosystem, with cumulative investments exceeding and reaching almost 17 billion US dollars. So this center nowadays is ranked #1 in Eastern Europe and Central Asia by the Global Financial Centers Index. Bioteric National Managing Holding is funding projects via public-private mechanisms, targeting over 13 billion US dollars in investments. So in this way, the government shows that it's also interested in investment development and bringing the best conditions for investors. Regional cooperation includes the Belt and Road initiatives, attracting Chinese and neighboring countries' investments in infrastructure, metallurgy, and raw materials processing. For example, one of the most important popular initiatives are Trans-Caspian International Transport Road and multimodal logistics hubs. Forecasts from the Boston Consulting Group also state that Kazakhstan could capture around 100 billion US dollars of Central Asia's 170 billion US dollars in potential investments, affirming its role as a reliable partner and regional growth center. According to United Nations Trade and Development, Kazakhstan leads globally in simplifying regulations via digital licensing and fast-track mechanisms for priority projects. These reforms have contributed a lot for Kazakhstan's economy, which has expanded above 5% for 3 years in a row. For the first 9 months of this year, it reached 6.3% GDP growth, and it's one of the highest rates in the world. It is expected that GDP will exceed 330 billion US dollars this year, comprising 60% of Central Asia's economy. Also, it reached 34th place in IMD rating, which is alongside Japan, Kuwait, and Portugal. It takes 12th place out of 71 countries in the global value chain participation, and most of them are spanning globally, not just regionally. And the fiscal sustainability shows that the public debt in extremely low rates, it's around 22% this year, and this is lower than 78% of other countries. Credit ratings confirm strengths. Investment grade from Standard & Poor shows that it has BBB- and a positive outlook, so we can expect the raise in the future. Fitch and Moody's are showing us BBB and Baa as well. So, what are the priorities in investment of Kazakhstan? The most strategic document, the National Development Plan, gives us the aim to reach 23% of GDP by 2029. What Kazakhstan is doing for it? Currently, 1,149 active companies are participating in investments worth 138 billion US dollars. And in the industrial sectors, mining and metallurgy, chemicals, and other sectors. Largest projects are mostly greenfield, so it includes green hydrogen plant, integrated gas, chemical complex, and the other projects. Sorry. So the results also show us that investments from our neighboring countries are surging. For example, investments from China are tripled only in this first half by 2025. Out of 30 billion of Chinese investments in Central Asia are coming to Kazakhstan, like around 25 billion US dollars. It proves that active role in Kazakhstan. It proves that Kazakhstan takes an active role in investment attraction. here. And according to EBRD, Kazakhstan is participating in 13 infrastructure projects worth 5.5 billion US dollars. Yeah. And finally, Kazakhstan leads landlocked countries in transport investments. It has 8 billion US dollars in across 19 projects. In conclusion, I would like to say that these numbers are just the numbers. It shows the strong cooperation in Central Asia and the friendly environment with its neighboring countries, including the big economies such as China and Russia. And in a world fragmented by economic and geopolitical divides, Kazakhstan and Central Asia stands as a beacon of opportunity, transforming challenges into pathways for collaboration and growth. Through fundamental reforms, strategic partnerships, and unwavering commitment to transparency, we are building a resilient and inclusive investment ecosystem together. As a bridge between East and West and North and South, Central Asia countries forge a future defined by trust, innovation, and shared prosperity. During this era, countries need to unite their visions and resources to create a new path of sustainable progress, proving that partnership can triumph over polarization. Thank you. I finished.
Thank you very much, Destan, for your good presentation of the current situation of Kazakhstan's investment policy. And now we are turning to several discussions, questions, which I prepared to our panelists. And each panelist will have, of course, I have a lot of questions, but I think that due to the shortage of time, we can ask by 2 questions from each panelist, and please be tidy in terms of keep of 1 minute for 1 question, okay? And then we will turn for Q&A questions from the auditorium. And first questions to our distinguished speaker, Mr. Abdullah Abdulkadirov. So, and do you think that technological advancement is improving or harming human connections? Why or why not? So this is my first question.
Of course, technological advantages are improving human connections. Ну, я лучше на русском отвечу.
I'd better say in Russian because this is a complex question and our audience understands Russian better. Technological advantages always lead to exchange of views, exchange of various approaches to life, and it improves people's connection. But in the meanwhile, if technological advantages are only concentrated in one and same hands on groups, I'm not even saying countries, but groups, because that is threat. Because these groups start behaving as if they are ruler of the world, and they start dictating their own understanding of human values, and they start launching their own games. And their notion, their understanding, power equals justice, which is not so.
And my next question is how can regional cooperation on water, transportation, and IT project be aligned with global climate and sustainability goals?
Вы знаете,
You know, we don't have much choice only to cooperate in water resources management. We have 5 large rivers, and Tanshan mountain divides these rivers. And climate change has led to what we are observing now, and that is water deficit. This was not such a huge problem 10 years ago, but 3 years ago, I remember when Almaty was experiencing huge water deficit. The same is happening in Uzbekistan. Therefore, we need to rapidly move towards technologies to reduce water consumption, especially in agriculture, because agriculture is the main consumer of water. If we fail to do so, that will be the hugest tragedy to our region, people start leaving the regions because they cannot harvest, and the life opportunities, conditions for living in this or that area will worsen, will deteriorate, and people start leaving their territories, their lands, and the region may lose its capacity. In this issue, we also need to join our efforts. I hope I've coped to answer your question. Thank you very much.
Mr. Yan Chen. So, as China and Central Asia enters the intelligent era, what are the key opportunities and challenges in building a China-Central Asia digital intelligent community of shared future? And how can both sides ensure that AI-driven cooperation promotes ethical innovation, digital sovereignty, and inclusive development across the regions? Big questions. Please, yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, very big question. I think the greatest opportunity for China and the Central Region to build, construct the so-called the China Central Asian digital intelligent community for shared future lies in the mutual trust we have established for many years. So our conference topic is rebuild the trust. But for us, there is no necessary to rebuild the trust. We have trust. We trust each other for many years since the collapse of the Soviet Union. During the process of the establishment of the Shanghai Cooperation, including its previous institution like Shanghai 5. So for many years, we have enough trust. We trust each other. And also second is, point is that China holds technological comparative advantage, while Central Asian nations are facing a very big challenge actually. You have to, there are very urgent demands for modernization your economy and to build the digital, to transform the nation from currently status to digital intelligent nations. I mean, I believe the challenges primarily lies in two aspects. The first is because there are two so-called AI powers like United States and China, and we have divergent understanding and divergent pathways, and even divergent maybe standards to develop the technology in AI sphere. So it's for Central Asian countries, it becomes more difficult to follow the previous so-called multivectoralism. Maybe in some cases, concrete some cases, you have to choose sides. So I think this is the first biggest challenge. The second is, I mean, there is a shortage of so-called intelligent digital talents in Central Asian nations. We have not enough talents to develop this new emerging field. But I think we can do enough, do a lot of things, and why we can construct this kind of the community, digital intelligent community for shared future between our nations. I think China actually, China's Central Asian policy is a little bit different from the other great powers in the region. I mean, China has always respected the autonomy of the Central Asian republics. We know that we have our own history, and we know that the equality is quite important. The sovereignty is even more essential for Central Asian nations. So that means in building a China Central Asian digital intelligent community of shared future, we have the historical past which has experienced during the establishment of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. This is the so-called consensus principle. So I mean, we can use this historical past dependence and to use the consensus principles into our cooperation in the digital intelligence spheres. So it means you have the veto, like as the permanent member states of the Security Council of the United Nations. I mean, this is a good guarantee for the Central Asian nations to have your autonomy and to have your digital sovereignty and to make the balance between so-called digital sovereignty and intelligent development. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. You want to add something?
When we talk about choosing the side, I believe Central Asian states should not be either pro-Western or pro-Eastern. We are pro-Central Asia. We want to be here and we want to implement our own interests.
Much for your really full and comprehensive answer. And I think that actually in all of my prepared questions, just you already covered all of my questions. And thank you. Maybe one more specification right now for our auditoriums. How do you think, what safeguards are needed to ensure that AI cooperation between China and Central Asia respects digital right and foster mutual trust?
Может быть,
Yes.
давай до своего ответа на
May I also comment? And I've just now our panelists said very correct thing, not only in terms of politics, but he was quite right when saying that we should not be pro-Western or pro-Eastern, but should be pro-Central Asian. That's exactly Chinese policy. But I mean, I said in certain cases, probably you will have to choose a side. Not always, but in some particular cases, because in terms of technology, there are two main powers and two lines, so two routes that are different. He means the Russian and Chinese route of technological development, and that they are quite different. And Central Asian states have to sometimes choose the very route that meets your interests, the interests of Central Asian region. Thank you very much. This was quite a good addition and comment. Going back to this case, well, at least myself, when I work with this kind of analysis, I understand that copy-paste policy is not always efficient. Naturally, there are certain internal policy, internal frameworks, and the question to what extent these or that experience or benchmark can be adapted within your own country is conditioned. It depends on to what extent the policy of implementation of this or that will be. Thank you very much.
For our third speaker, can you switch off your microphone? Because yes, thank you. To Konstantin Polunin, and actually I have two questions because I can say that I go through your report, Chester, which was presented today, and found in myself that it's really comprehensive one. And of course, a lot of questions, a lot of obstacles just we found for us. For example, for me as an analyst, just I found that there are many questions where I have to go deeper and investigate how we can adapt such kind of models to Kazakhstan, etc., etc. But in terms of your today's presentations, for example, I want to turn to sides, the question of diversification and specialization. For example, the BCG reports highlights that Kazakhstan still relies heavily on resource-rich sector. Even so, global demand for commodities is rising. How can Kazakhstan diversify its economy, especially downstream, manufacturing, agriculture, to reduce vulnerability to commodity price shocks? It's more classic questions, but I know that probably, did you turn to that questions according to your model or something like this one? Thank you.
Спасибо. Знаете, я понял, панелист.
Thank you very much. Because the panelists have turned into Russian, I will also turn into Russian. You may keep speaking English, and I will turn. I can both speak English or Russian as you wish. You see, you're asking such a question that has no answer ready. All the answers are already delineated in programs, plans, and action plans. Everyone knows what to do, especially in Kazakhstan. There's gigantic number of programs, action plans, and the question is not what to do, but how to do. How do we do this or that? How do we implement? The question is not in strategy. Strategy is quite clear. It's been adopted and many times, not one or two, three times. The question is here about the execution, about the implementation. We can change once a year our opinion, and we may declare new orientations, and we can keep on going what people like doing, or we can just do what we want, what we need to do. We need probably a system of stimulus, of motivations, of just to do what has already been delineated in programs and actions. Second, the incentives, this system of incentives should strengthen the focus, because Kazakhstan wants everything: the agriculture, transport corridor, electricity, oil and gas, huge infrastructural programs. Kazakhstan wants everything and now, but there's no magic, there's no magic. You need to focus on something. A third, maybe that's an important story. Every time when we talk about resource-based economy, we straight away we talk about the economy of knowledge. Let's now jump, make a leap, and let's find ourselves in knowledge economy. All of these mantras are more or less the same, including Kazakhstan is not an exclusion. The question is, there is no magic. If you want to have knowledge economy, you should have the relevant demand within your country. If there is no demand, then all the talents that are here that can be deemed the knowledge economy, they will just live in another country where there is such a demand. So what do we do? Thank you. I tried to be very brief, but I can talk long. I think this is the question for our common discussion. Please, what would you add? I believe Central Asian states may do one thing what Chinese did. We could tell to China and other states the technology for the market. For instance, China's approach is as such: they conquer the markets, although others try to conquer the assets. The Chinese approach is long-term and sustainable because the value of assets is defined by the market. Today you may have the market and the assets value is high, but tomorrow if there's no market, the assets value is zero. In both cases, if these 5 states agree and cope to develop one shared policy, technology for market, that would be one of the possible solutions that we could introduce. Thank you very much for your comment. And I'd like to clarify, slightly clarifying question. Thanks a lot for what we've done, but we know quite good that Kazakhstan at the moment, if we go back to what you mentioned, how to jump into the knowledge economy, now Kazakhstan, given the last address of the president to his nation, we already know that we need to focus on technological development. During the upcoming 3 years, we need to actively introduce AI and AI-related policies. In this regard, how do you think, what kind of quick wins are there for, it may sound a bit provocative, but what quick wins can Kazakhstan delineate for itself? Whether there are certain projects or policies to make this policy rather proactive. Would you kindly share a certain recommendation from Boston Consulting Group? Well, If I knew all the answers, I would live in the heaven, on the one hand. On the other hand, again, there is no magic. First of all, we need to get rid of any illusions. Get rid of the illusion that AI will save everyone and everything will be perfect. I think decision-making individuals, they created the Ministry of AI, they've announced this program, but AI is AI. Briefly speaking, we need clear, practical things that are made quickly and may lead to certain results. For example, I will take another country as an example. There is an institute, Caspian Institute of Artificial Intelligence, created in Azerbaijan based on Saka company. This is it's public. It's been declared last time at what was last year at COP. It's public, clear information. There is an Institute of Artificial Intelligence. Do you have such an institute that is working on the basis of a large Kazakhstani company that is not only the part of R&D but is implementing certain practical project solutions for country? If you have such a company, please let me know. If you don't have such a company, establish one. Second, AI should be implemented not through business. I don't believe in the magic that government can quickly do that. There's no magic. It's time-consuming, and maybe the initiative with regarding the Center of Regulatory Center of AI involving business, that is better. Especially if we're talking about enhancing the legal framework, investment climate, etc. We need to focus. These are the two examples. I may continue if you wish. I believe we will have time to continue this kind of discussions. Thank you very much for your examples. Indeed, Kazakhstan is now implementing policies in this direction. And believe me, it is being implemented not only by our country, but there are institutions, research institutions involved. Except for state support, we also have certain interest on behalf of the business community. So we're talking about a cluster approach, which is growing now. And my last question I'd like to address to our speaker, the panelist, Dastan. Well, everyone has said a lot about Kazakhstan so far. My question is, can Kazakhstan use strategy as a neutral bridge between the West and the East? Can this strategy be sustainable, resilient, and help us to enhance our proactivity in terms of as a land investment, attractive land, and on the other hand, to show the power of Central Asia, that Central Asia is one of the attractive places for foreign investors. Thank you very much for your question. It's indeed interesting. We can divide this question into several parts. Kazakhstan in general, as Central Asia as a whole, has received certain advantages from the nature itself and geographic location as well. Speaking about nature, natural factor, I mean, okay, we have two superpowers on the right, on the left. Then there is European Union, and on the south there is huge population and market. And then over the ocean there is the USA. Nevertheless, all these parties, so-called epicenters of large economies and large markets, are interested in things which Central Asia and Kazakhstan possess, starting with resources and logistic routes and any other content. no country in strategic plan will not contradict the country whose resources may are of certain interest to that country, and therefore this is one of the driving factors why the model of neutral bridge may work, may be long-term sustainable. Moreover, today many call China the manufacturer, the world manufacturer, because it produces almost everything for everyone, and not everyone can compete with China. And there is a route. There are three routes at Asia, USA, Europe, Europe, Asia. At the part Europe, Asia, the Chinese goods go through Asian transit. We have Trans-Caspian International Transport routes, and we also have alternative routes that go through, and in future will go through Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, etc. We are also connected to international transport corridors, north-south, one road, one belt, West China, West Europe, etc. And in this regard, all of these factors are already in place, and they show that we need to cooperate and join our efforts. Plus, in terms of, I would like to add several moments that keep on emerged in my mind during discussions. And there is a joint stock company called NIT. It's our institute that is engaged in artificial intelligence, that's a subsidiary of the Ministry of AI and Digital Development. Why are we putting such a great focus on AI? Why many countries are putting great focus on AI? There is a notion under development now that's called technical diplomacy. In a sense, this term means the more the country is developed in terms of AI and digital technologies, the more it will have the bargain power in future, the bargaining power. And we see that some people call this a bubble, some people call this a future perspective and injections into the market of AI. And in this regard, now I turn to the advantages that we have developed so far. And all these developments in digitalization that Kazakhstan has been implementing especially during the last 5 years, they already mean that we cannot stop now, because given in future technical diplomacy be in place and have influence, we need to get engaged as well. Thank you very much, Dastan. Yes, we can continue these discussions endlessly, but I have 7 minutes sharp to ask questions from the audience. Dear colleagues, there are microphones. When you ask a question, you may address it to a certain panelist. And please, now we have Q&A session.
Have a questions you can address for exact speaker. Just what kind of questions, please. Пожалуйста. И называйте себя, пожалуйста, да. Okay, you can just...
Well, thanks for your presentation. My name is Antonio Alonso from San Pablo CEU University in Spain, Madrid. Thanks for your presentations, very helpful to understand the next future of the world, of this region. The globalization process was very beneficial for the American and Western countries, the same for China during the last 30 years. But what about the future? You mentioned earlier about the fragmented globalization. So my question is if it is possible to come back to the previous globalization. This is my first question. And the second one is in that scenario where it is not, which is a fragmented globalization, what is the main role of Kazakhstan and Central Asia? Just please clarify if this is the real end of multi-vector policy or this is just a new era for the hub, for being a hub between a bridge between Western countries and the BRICS, because this is the new two blocks policy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And who is ready to answer? Konstantin, please.
Thank you very much. I think this is a long discussion, so 7 minutes is definitely not enough. I want to be very short. We have global scenarios at BCG. One of them is called Back to the Future. So this will not happen. Yeah? The other one is multipolar rivalry. This is what is happening. The third one is global shocks and conflicts, etc., etc. So I don't think BCG doesn't think that there's a way back to the worlds before, 10 years ago. That's the first question. Second question, my view, and I don't pretend I'm right, but still, I think this is a wishful thinking also from us that this will be an emerging hub here in Central Asia. This is a wishful thinking. We all want it. I think it makes sense. At the same time, let's be clear that the run for natural resources, for strategic control of this region, let's be really clear, does not support the setup of a general hub. Why? Because it's easier to manage smaller countries than a larger one. That's why I think that's a question of sovereignty and a question of self-willingness of these countries to cooperate and to build something together. Be it mineral hub, be it energy hub, be it water hub, be it AI hub, etc., etc. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions, please?
Alexander Dergay, Berliner Zeitung, Berlin newspaper. I think I want to guide this or direct this question to all speakers. Maybe each of you can give a brief input about this. My question is related to the Ukraine conflict. So do you think that after there will be a resolution in whatever scenario this may look like, eventually the momentum for Central Asia will subside? And how are the countries planning to create sustainable momentum, or basically have sustainably develop their, for example, transport corridors, whereas when the conflict in Ukraine is resolved, everything might just go back to the northern corridor in a way, and leaving Central Asia basically in the second league regional interest.
Who is going to be first, please? Mr. Abdikadirov.
The Ukrainian conflict mainly has affected the relationships between Russia and Europe. It has not badly affected relationships between Central Asia and Russia, and Central Asia with Europe, and Central Asia with China. That's why we do consider Ukrainian conflict as a more regional conflict, which has an effect on us as well, but it's more mental effect, because at the beginning, whole Central Asian countries were in a shock, thinking that one day Russia may attack those countries as well if we will be behaving not correctly in their mind. That was a concern, but after all, after 3 years, we started to realize that there is no intention of Russia to rebuild the Soviet Union. But from the other hand, this conflict gave some chance to Central Asian countries be in the center of the exchange between China and Russia and the other part of the world. And that gave a lot of push to the development of the economy in Kyrgyzstan, for example. And then attention to Central Asia has risen up. So when you say momentum, we understand this momentum, not the other one. But we do hope that one day this conflict will be end, but it's stuck. Demands of Russia is too high, and the Ukrainians cannot give up everything that they were fighting for as well. So it's stuck. We don't know where is going to be the point where both sides will come up with an agreement. We don't know it. We don't see it yet. And it's going to continue, most probably. And this is a pity. Yesterday it has been told the only measurement when you want to end up with a conflict should be life of people. When you come up with this kind of understanding, then you can end up with every fight, every war immediately. So when both sides will count the people's life as a measurement, I think there will be momentum to end up with this conflict. But for us, as I said, that conflict again has shown that if you won't be relying on your own resources, on your own power, one day you will get attacked. Anyway, from the south, from the west, from the east, doesn't matter. But there is a threat, a strong one. So that's why we are always calling for cooperation and peace in between 5 countries, including Afghanistan, 6 countries in Central Asia. Those borders we can see in the map, those are made up 100 years back. For 3,000 years, we were one nation, everything was unique. I mean, everything was in common. We were one region, one nation, speaking at one language, applying for Islam, etc., etc. So we cannot give up our 3,000 years history to the history which was built up for the last 100 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And of course, we can discuss a little bit more, but I think that within the next sessions and maybe we still have a time within a coffee break, etc., to change your opinions with our speakers. And now let me say a real big thanks to all of our distinguished speakers for their insights, and as we strongly believe that actually the key elements and key points from each speech can be taken into considerations when we do some resume about today's event. And of course, you can find it in our website. Just please welcome to our social media sites and Instagram, Facebook, even Telegram. Actually, all remarks will be put inside of this media. And again, real thank you for Mr. Abdikadirov, Mr. Yanchen, Mr. Konstantin Polunin, Dastan Akibayev. So I, on behalf of our institutions, so really thanks, and please keep in touch and have a good, fruitful cooperation. Thank you to auditorium for being here with us on this morning sessions. You know that starting as a first, it's always hard, but I think that today's sessions was good and interesting for you. Thank you very much.